Hey there. All right, so we're going to begin with project 1. And project 1 is going to basically give you the understanding of how HTML markup works. As you begin, you will begin with, here's the project 1. Make sure you read through all these things first. Don't try to do this all at once. Have an understanding of the core ideas and then begin to apply them with this assignment. All right, so you're going to be creating a folder called web coding. And so you're going to make sure you are organized. So one of the things you're going to do is you're going to go into your documents folder. If you go into your documents, go over here, choose documents. It'll give you a nice list of documents here in my window Explorer. And I'm going to create a folder called web coding, which I have right here. I'm going to go into that folder and I'm going to create a new text document. If you are unsure of how to create a folder, you would need to go up here and you're going to say new folder. And then when you click on that, it'll create a folder, and then you can name that folder web coding, which is how I created this one here. So I'm going to go into this folder, and I am going to right click and say new. I could make a folder in here if I wanted, but I'm going to say new text document. Now in this new text document, I'm going to leave it as is, and I'm going to open it up with my text editor. So when I open this up, I can go into my text editor, and I'm going to go up to File, Save As, and here notice that it highlights the entire thing. Now I am going to change this to be the name and a different type of extension. Currently the extension is txt. I want to change that, and the easiest way is to put the new file name in quotes like so, and in this I'm going to say project1.html. When I do that, I'm going to show you I have a project. The name here has changed, but also in my folder now I have a project1.html, and that gives me a new HTML document. Well, that is good because this is the kind of extension I want for all my web pages, HTML. And so these are two different types of documents now, and this is the one that we're going to be using, and I could actually just delete that one if I want. And so I'll just go ahead and I'll delete it. So now I'm working with this page. The activity asks you to copy the text information from this link. So if I went to this link, you'll notice that you have this info. Now I want to quickly just show you something which is kind of interesting. When you go to this, if I was to just take this right now, control copy it, I'm going to paste it into my text document, and I'm going to say File, Save. So now my HTML Project 1 HTML page has content in it. Notice that written on the page, it looks kind of like a normal paper. Here's like a header, and here's some content. Here's another section. Here's another header, and here's the content. Now what's cool about this is that I could actually look at this page as is with a web browser, because this is an HTML document. I right click on this and I said open with, and I can choose one of these browsers, and I'm going to use Chrome. Here's what that page looks like. Now it just takes all that text and it really just kind of rams it all together, and it doesn't separate them out. I have I don't know what is a header, what is a paragraph, or anything like that. Now this is where the beauty of markup comes from. So let me show you that. So here's my web page activity. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be working with content, and we're going to begin marking it up, like putting it and defining what it is and what goes in what area. So what is a paragraph? What is a header? What is the information that just the computer needs to know? What would be that? What language is this going to be presented in? And those kind of things. And as we go along, we'll get more and more detailed in that. But as a core basic, this is how we're going to begin. So let me just show you some very core things here. When you go to the lecture notes for HTML5 code, you're going to get a layout of a very specific basic breakdown of a web page. So in its basic element, you're going to have core regions of a web page. One of the most important parts is this doc type and defining the actual language that we're going to have. We're going to have a head region, and in this area, this is where we put in information like the title of the web page and the information that search engines use, and there's other information that will go in there later on. This section is the body section that actually contains the stuff that people will be reading, what I will read. This is where it looks more like a journal article or something out of a magazine, where we have pictures and headings and paragraphs and lists of things, and this is where a person actually sees. So if you were to take the core elements of a web page and basically break it down into some of the least bits, basically just break it down, you're going to divide it up into some key areas. And if we were to look at that, in a kind of a basic structure, it would look like this. We have the doc type definition here, which is we're using an HTML5. That's the standard, and this defines and tells you that you're using HTML5. This is a very simple way to tell the browser what language this page is written in. Then we're going to have a main container called an HTML container. It begins and it ends here. The HTML container is going to hold everything. So what I want you to start thinking about is a beginning. A lot of times we have a beginning and an end container. Here's one. Here's a beginning head and an end head. Now notice it has a backslash on that. Here's a beginning body and an end body. Now those contain content. Notice that the head contains this stuff inside of it. The body, when we get into more complex HTML pages, will contain like a header and a paragraph and another header. And what's going to look like, it's going to start to mark off or mark up the pages, the content within a page. And so it's really important to kind of have this idea in mind, because as you begin to lay out your page, you want to make sure that you see an opening tag and an ending tag, and it contains something. An opening tag and a closing tag, and it contains something. Now these tags can house other tags inside of them sometimes. But to be aware that this is kind of what we're doing. We're wrapping content around a definition. This is going to be a paragraph, and it begins at the beginning of the paragraph tag, and anything inside of the paragraph tag is going to be marked as a paragraph. And that can look in a number of ways, and you can change colors and typefaces and that sort of thing, and it'll all be based on how you define what's inside that content. So what we are doing is we're taking this content that you see here, this text document that was available when you click on, let's see, when you click on that link in our project 1, and when you go to that down here, the text, we're going to take this text and we're going to begin to designate that this is a heading 1, that this is a paragraph, This is a heading 2. This is a paragraph. This is a series of lists, lists of things. This is another heading. This is another paragraph. And so is this. And so what you're going to do then is we'll start to wrap these things around the appropriate content. So let us begin with that. So this content here is what you could consider as a structure. You're going to begin, every document is going to basically have the same structure. You've got to have a doc type. You've got to have an opening HTML and a closing HTML. You've got to have the head, the opening head, and the closing head. You've got to have a body and a closing body. Now this page here is a legitimate page actually. Now if I was to open this, now I can do that and open this page. Notice that I have a title here that says blank web page using HTML5 code. Now I can actually take this and where I have it stored in my folder, I can open it. Now I have it stored in a different folder just so that you can see that now if I take this and I open this, I can right click on it and say open with Google Chrome. Here is what it looks like. There's nothing on the page, but notice that I have a title. That's because I marked up the title within these brackets, and that's what shows up in that little tab on my web page right here. So even though I don't have any content necessarily to display, I have a web page. Now let me show you. If I take that and I change that and I add something within this context, let's say I add what's called a header H1. It begins here and it ends there. Anything that I put in here, if I put in my header region, if I can save this and I go back to my web page, I can refresh it. There it is. There is that header. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be writing and marking up this text. So we're going to start from scratch and we're going to begin for project 1 basically from scratch, but we're going to use a template to kind of lay things out.